Venezuela recently submitted new documents to the International Court of Justice, that's the ICJ, to defend the country's plans to annex Essequibo. The Bolivarian Republic President Nicolas Maduro confirmed the breaking development earlier in the week. Maduro announced the news on his program Kung Maduro Plus. This is despite saying, quote, "Going to the International Court of Justice has been a lying, false illusion. It has been an erratic step taken by Guyana," end quote. You are watching The Final Takeaway. We're happy to have you back and welcome on board if this is your first time watching our channel. Remember to click on the subscribe button below, then hit the notification bell to be the first to know the moment we post a video on YouTube. Sending us a super thanks is another way for viewers to support our channel. Just know that we totally appreciate all of our subscribers, viewers, and supporters. Also, the join button below is proof we're officially verified by YouTube and are a part of their advertisement program. This is why you'll see the ads on our videos. Let's take our focus back to Venezuela. According to President Maduro, Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez visited Hague in the Netherlands to deliver the documents to the ICJ. The word in the street is that Venezuela scrambled to file those documents to avoid missing the April 8th, 2024 deadline set by the court. As the saying goes, better late than never. But this isn't necessarily something to celebrate, as Venezuela continues to deny that the ICJ has the power to hear and settle the border dispute case with Guyana. Nevertheless, we're told the government of Guyana welcomes Maduro's decision to follow up on the Venezuela border dispute with the ICJ. Venezuela is challenging the legitimacy of the arbitral award of 1899. The award is an official decision and it serves as historical proof that Guyana has sovereignty, lawful rights, and control of the Essequibo territory. The internationally recognized document finalized the land and water boundaries between Guyana and Venezuela. Think of the 1899 award as similar to a land title that proves you own a particular property. Among the paperwork Venezuela submitted to the ICJ are maps, titles, and proofs, says Maduro. Among the paperwork Venezuela submitted to the ICJ are maps, titles, and proofs, says Maduro. We have the historical truth. We have the documents, he told viewers. According to the nation's leader, his country has convincing historical, legal, and moral truth and will prove it to the ICJ. However, Maduro made some scathing comments as he informed the public of the new developments. We didn't want to overlook the opportunity to scrutinize some of his statements. How about we take a close look at some of the claims on this lovely Saturday, wherever you are around the world? While some of his comments may be taken as facts by those in support of Venezuela's annexation plans, these comments can be challenged and even contradicted by supporting evidence. Sit back and relax as we walk you through some inconsistencies in Venezuela's story. On one hand, Maduro boasts that Venezuela submitted evidence to the World Court to prove Essequibo was taken away and handed to Britain in 1899 via the 1899 arbitral award. At the same token, he insists the same United Nations Court does not have the power to settle the dispute concerning Essequibo. Here are the key sweeping statements by the president as he argues that the country is defending its truth before the ICJ. Number one, quote, "We are not taking anything from anyone. We are recovering from a fraud and dispossession." In other words, Maduro is saying Britain stole Essequibo from Venezuela and therefore seizing Essequibo unilaterally is simply a way to get back the territory they once owned. Here's what he says next, number 2. We have the historical truth. We have the documents which were officially consigned and delivered today. By that he means they have proof there was fraud when the Paris Tribunal in 1899 granted Essequibo to Britain to form part of British Guyana, and that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez delivered those proofs to the ICJ a few days ago. But here is where things take a turn against logics. Venezuela has always said the World Court can't hear this case because it lacks the legal power to do so. Here is what Maduro said, word for word. Quote, "First of all, in the document, Venezuela argues and demonstrates that the court has no jurisdiction to hear a unilateral claim by Guyana against our country. Secondly, the court has erratically attributed jurisdiction to itself, violating the Geneva Agreement and international legality, falsifying an alleged consent of Venezuela that has never existed and never will," end quote. Here, Maduro is accusing the ICJ of making up a story that Venezuela agrees to allow it to settle this dispute. Maduro is also saying his country will never accept the court can legally settle the case. Bear in mind, this is the very same court Venezuela just submitted paperwork to try and prove ownership of Essequibo. Venezuela has to make up its mind on whether the ICJ does or does not have power because, on one hand, it's saying no, it does not. Yet, it wants the court to look at the documents that have been submitted. If Venezuela does not respect the ICJ's powers over the case, why did Maduro even bother to have Delcy Rodriguez submit maps and titles to prove anything? What if the court says we cannot accept your documents to prove your case against Guyana, but the ICJ will not do this? Why? Because it does have these powers under the same 1966 Geneva Agreement signed by Venezuela and Guyana. The countries agreed that the United Nations could pick a court to settle the dispute. And this is if they fail to come to a peaceful agreement about Essequibo within 4 years, as stated in Article 4, Number 1 and 2 of the agreement. The agreement gives the United Nations Secretary General the power to choose a court or a means of settlement until the countries come to an agreement or peaceful solution. The UN chose the World Court, also known as the ICJ, to settle the matter once and for all. But according to Maduro, the ICJ does not have the power to settle the case unless Venezuela writes to the court and openly agrees it can hear and settle the case, specifically the case as to whether the 1899 arbitral award is valid. Do you think Maduro is playing mind games and trying to distort facts here? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Again, if Venezuela feels this way, why is it even engaging with the ICJ? According to Maduro, while they are okay with bringing documents of proof of ownership to Essequibo to the ICJ, this, quote, does not imply, nor will it ever imply, the recognition of the jurisdiction and competence of the court in the controversy over the Essequibo, Guyana. Only the Geneva Agreement can settle the case, says the president. The Guyana versus Venezuela case at the International Court of Justice, also known as the United Nations Top Court, started back in 2018. In that year, Guyana asked the court to make a final decision on whether the arbitral award of 1899, the proof of ownership of Essequibo, that document, whether that document is valid. This could help stop Venezuela from claiming ownership of Essequibo once and for all. Venezuela came kicking and screaming to the ICJ, saying the court did not have the legal power to settle the dispute. Instead, Venezuela insists that a document called the Geneva Agreement of 1966 is the only document that provides a legal way for the two countries to settle their differences over the territory. The ICJ maintains that it has power to hear Guyana's case. Last December, ICJ President Joan Donoghue delivered an astounding ruling. The decision addressed the dispute and outlined what Venezuela and Guyana should and should not do. To be more specific, the court warned Venezuela not to do anything that may create more friction with Guyana or make it more difficult to resolve the fallout. Since then, Venezuela asked voters to vote on seizing Essequibo. Next, Maduro ordered an invasion of the territory after claiming it was the decision of Venezuelan voters. Early this month, Venezuela's parliament approved a law to take Essequibo from Guyana without permission and make it a part of the Spanish-speaking country, going against the ruling of the ICJ. Critics suspect Maduro is trying to force Guyana's hand and make it abandon the ICJ case when he said this, quote, "Guyana has no alternative. Sooner rather than later, Guyana will have to sit down to negotiate with Venezuela within the framework of the Geneva Agreement." Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Enjoy this beautiful Saturday.